Hi everyone, my name is Cece Ramirez and today my speech is going to be about boating safety. While boating may be a very exhilarating sport, if you don't know the risks that come along with it, you may be floating in the water directly in harm's way. Today I'm going to inform you of the importance of boat safety. For those with experience in water sports and boating, I will cover some rules and regulations you may know or you may have never heard of. For the inexperienced watergoers, I will discuss the many laws and benefits of knowing the information and the risks that come with the fun to be had on the water. For this presentation, I will be specifically talking about boating safety for open motor boats, although these laws apply to a majority of water vessels. Having an affinity love for boating and water sports, I am sharing knowledge that can benefit new or even experienced boaters. In dedication to passing on these useful tips, I have reviewed local boating handbooks as well as reading up on news articles. The following information will give you knowledge on not only safety while boating, but also unspoken guidelines of boating courtesy, as well as maintaining a safe environment while towing passengers. Now, starting with the basics of boating, there are many laws to abide by. As stated in the Idaho Handbook of Boating Laws and Responsibilities, before going out onto the water, take steps to make the outing safe and enjoyable. Which brings me to my first visual aid. This is what the handbook looks like. You can find this online in a PDF form if you care to review it. Before even getting into your boat, you need to know the basics of what is required of you to have on your boat at all times. These items include things like your registration, validation stickers, fire extinguisher, a horn, whistle, or a bell, day and night visual distress signals, and navigation lights. Along with that checklist of items, it is required to have a life vest per person aboard the ship, and Idaho state law requires children 14 years and younger to wear life vests at all times, even when the boat is docked. Although it is advised not to operate a boat in the dark, another law requires boaters to don at least one lantern or flashlight between the hours of sunset and sunrise. To add to the list of required equipment, it is very crucial to have on board at all times at least one, but preferably two, oars. In case of engine failure, you may need to row your boat gently down that stream or lake. When it comes to being prepared, one should always complete the aforementioned checklist along with doing physical inspections of your vessel and making the necessary adjustments for the number of passengers participating in the event. Knowing the capacity of your boat is required by law, and the weight limits shall not exceed the maximum capacity labeled at any given time. So, for example, my boat has the capacity of 8 people or a weight capacity of 1,400 pounds. To be in accordance with the law, all of my passengers and belongings on the boat cannot exceed that 1,400-pound weight limit, but the person limit may vary depending on the size of the passengers. A key thing to be aware of during boating is your surroundings. Typically, one would assume that this is common sense, but unfortunately for some boaters, it's not. To be aware of your surroundings means to keep your head on a swivel. Be looking not only ahead and behind, but also to either side. Very much so like driving a car or a road vehicle. The two key factors to make boating all the more risky is not only do boats not have defined lanes in which to stay in, but they also do not have brakes. This is important to know and understand because while it may seem obvious to look in the direction you are going, it is often hard to tell the direction in which other boaters are going and if they can visibly see you. Now that we have learned some of the many rules and regulations of boating, I would like to discuss the formal but key courtesy guidelines of boating. Abrupt turning and excessive speed can lead to serious accidents on the water if you're not mindful of your surroundings. It is common to experience boaters that take advantage of the lack of a speed limit on the water. Those boaters tend to speed past you with no regard to the wake or ripple effect they leave behind them. Hitting a large wake while driving or while stopped results in extreme and hard slapping of your boat on the water. It is very uncomfortable and sometimes it can lead to taking on water or in very extreme cases, even injury. As a courtesy to others when boating, it is polite to use appropriate speed when passing. Another guideline for boating is giving other boaters a respectable amount of space when possible. On a crowded lake, it's sometimes difficult to avoid getting within less than 20 feet of other boaters, but on a normal lake day, a cushion between you and other boaters is best. It not only helps avoid hitting other people's wakes, but it also helps if they have a passenger in the water, poses less of a risk for any sort of accident. Thirdly, when boating, there's a very common and well-known guideline that when a boater is in need, you help them, because the next time you're on the water, it could be you who needs rescued. One of the most common factors in needing assistance when boating is some sort of engine failure. Whether it be a starter going out or a dead battery, there is no worse feeling than being stranded on a boat with no power and nothing but water. I personally can attest that the boating community is so strong, and people are more inclined to help you or go the extra mile assisting fellow boaters, because even the best of us need help sometimes. Which brings me to my second visual aid. That's what it looks like. A boat towing another boat, helping each other out. Now that we've learned some of the laws to abide by and tips to follow as a boater, I think it's essential to know how to function in situations involving passengers riding outside of the boat. Now, when it comes to towing passengers, whether it be boarders, skiers, tubers, it's very important to keep in mind all the factors I previously mentioned. And those factors are things like speed and space and attentiveness. Boating becomes increasingly riskier when you have someone outside of the vessel. The laws for towing a passenger or passengers are very important to know and understand. The second someone hits the water, it is required by Idaho law to raise either a red or an orange flag to make other boaters aware of their unprotected presence in the water. While a person is up on a board or in a tube, the flag is not required to be raised. The flag is only required to be raised and visible once someone is physically in the water. This simple task can seriously reduce the risk of an accident. And that brings me to my third visual aid, just a fun little photo of myself wakeboarding. And now, that information given to you was to inform you of the importance of boating safety and how to handle yourself, passengers, and other boaters in several scenarios. Benefiting from the knowledge of a fellow water sport enthusiast saved me from being stranded overnight on the lake when I had engine failure. Wakeboarders, passengers, and drivers alike need to be aware and alert at all times of the risk of being on the water. Boating brings people together, and it truly is a fun and friendly community everyone should get to experience.